Welcome to the Combat and Conversation podcast, Mr. Mark, the Hammer Castagnini.
Thank you for having me. And finally, we made it happen.
I know,
brother.
finally.
It's been hard to align our timetables, but we're here now.
That's on my part, but thank you, absolutely.
Pleasure.
Take me from the beginning, Mr. Mark. Whereabouts did you grow up?
Look, I grew up in Northcote, northern suburbs, back in the day. So yeah, back when Northcote and Thornbury and Preston were, highly industrial areas, tough areas to grow up in.
Right.
I went to Northcote Tech. I was St. Joseph's primary school and then Northcote Tech.
Yep.
Northcote Tech's gone now, but
no longer there.
It was a hell of a school, It was a hell of a school to go through. I went through with, I think most of the kids I grew up with are either, dead or in jail. So it was, product of the environment back then was pretty hard. But I look back at that time. My father was a painter and docker, and unfortunately was killed on the docks when I was 5. My mum, and I struggled along. We lived in a sort of small, broken down old house, and we're pretty poor. I'm not shy to say that. A lot of people, fantasize or romanticize, we're poor, but it's not good to be poor. And I see how hard my mum had to work and struggle to put food on our table and provide a life for me and herself. So yeah, I suppose that's what's driven me. When you come from challenging background, you get driven to not want to go back there.
Yeah.
In theory, it's like, it's as I said, it's very romanticized, but the reality is it's hard going. And these days, there's a lot of people that are doing it hard. Life is expensive and is hard. So, but it's also, I think the mentality is a lot different these days. The expectation of getting things without having to work for them is a lot more. My mum did whatever it took. She was a cleaner, she worked in a factory, whatever she could do, work in restaurants, she did it, she wasn't too proud to do any jobs, to get for us to have a meager existence.
Yep.
And yeah, I think, I was brought up with, if you want something, you've got to work hard to get it.
Right.
And, there's no credit cards and all that back then, people like now. I think a lot of people live beyond their means because they want to portray themselves as being something they're not, especially on social media.
Of course.
They live beyond their means, and they can do that, or they do that because of the credit facilities.
Of course. Yeah.
You want something, get credit. Well, my mentality's always been, if I can't afford it, I don't buy it.
Yeah.
So, that's the only time I'll get credit was when I bought my first house.
Right.
So apart from that, it was like, no. I always, I remember working security back in the day. Like standing on this box for hours on end. In nightclubs, and it was hard going back then. Everyone used to smoke in the nightclubs. I'd hate it because I was trying to, I was training, I was fighting, and standing in a nightclub for 8 hours with your face in a cloud of smoke.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'd cough up black shit the next day.
Ah.
It was terrible. But I always thought, I'd go to the shop and I'd go, I want to get a new pair of runners or something. And say they're like $200, probably or less, for 100.
Yeah.
I'd go, man, it's $100. How long would I have to stand on the box in that, to get that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, is it really worth it for me? Like, are these all right? Or
Right.
So I'd always justify back any purchase of something that wasn't a necessity.
Yes.
Be it clothing or whatever, by, well, what do I have to do to get that?
Yeah, of course.
Your what's the word for it? Your effort or your commitment to get that product has to be related back to your working time in getting it.
Yeah.
I'll pay it off later. Well, that's how things are. People get themselves into issues these days.
Of course. So from a young age, it sounds like you knew the value of money.
Well,
the value of time.
When you don't have it, you work hard to do it.
Of course.
Go up and down streets with a push-pull lawnmower.
Yeah.
Just knock on doors and say, "I'll cut your lawn." Wash the. And we're doing that. Me and my cousin make a couple of bucks, whatever it would be. Back then it was like 20 cents to cut someone's lawn, whatever. And then we thought, you know what? Well, when we're doing the lawn, what about if we have a bucket and some, you know, sponges and we'll wash the cars, you know?
Right.
So we'll cut your grass and we'll wash your car. You're like, oh, maybe, you know.
So that, yeah.
So, you know, from a young age, I suppose I was always a bit enterprising.
Right.
And I just thought, no one's given me anything. So if I want it, earn it. You know, that was it.
Yeah,
so
that was the mentality.
And that's sort of, I carry that. I've carried that with me all my life.
Were you a rebellious kid? Were you a cheeky kid?
No. Look, I was bullied as a kid. I had a hard upbringing on that side, you know. Yep. Big nose wog, copped it from all the Aussies. You know, these days, you know, there's all this political correctness and you can't say that and you can't say this. Back then it was, you know, gloves are off, man. You know, you're bullied, you're bashed, you're thrown names at. But I look at it and I go, yeah, it wasn't good. But it's also part of making you resilient. Yeah. If you're going to cry and fucking go into a ball every time something hard happens to you, well, sure, there's the bullying side of it and there's that, but life is hard anyway. Yeah. So if someone's saying something to you is, oh, he said that, man, imagine when you have a real hard situation in your life and you have a real, you know, I say that to my fighters, going back to, we're in a fight gym here, a beautiful gym here, so great setup. By Nick and the team, yeah, man. Like, you know, Nick's done a good job, absolute champion. But I say it to my fighters, you know, I may not be politically correct, and I'm going to deliver information fast. You know, when I've got a class of 30, 40, 50 people, for me to stand there and talk about your fucking feelings, do this, do that. Oh, is that all right with you? No. It's like if you're going to get upset by me delivering fast critiqued information to you, if that's going to upset you, imagine someone punching you in the fucking face. Yeah. Then you get, it's a hell of a if you're upset by words, well, this is going to hurt you a lot more. Right. So that's, I suppose, you know, we're in the fight game, man. It's like life is a fight and we're in the fight game. Yeah. If you want to do well harden up. Yeah. You're going to get, it's not always going to be easy. There's going to be difficult people, you know, and I say that with regards to, you know, the crime statistics now. I've spoken about this a lot. It was like, oh, you know, the kids, this, that, you know. I'm like, you've got to understand, you and I have a mentality of a certain way, you know. That's not the mentality of someone that's kicking in the door of or a window at 3 a.m. in the morning with a machete to fucking rob some car keys. They're wired different, they think different. And I can get to that level, no problem. I would never do it, but I understand that mentality. So sitting down with people that are doing that sort of a crime and, you know, abusing old people, you know, going into people's homes, you know, in the old world of, you know, whatever you want to say, the underworld or whatever, you know, whether it's a bike club or whatever, there was always, you have a problem with someone, but you don't go near their family, yeah? Like families and homes that were sacred. You got a problem with me, we go sort it, yeah? Like that's how things work. But that's not, some of these young kids don't prescribe by that code of ethics or honor, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. They're like, I'm going to go rob the house, traumatize the kids, bash the wife, take the keys, that's it. They want a car, they wanted for whatever, to drive up and down the fucking freeway filming themselves. Yeah. Come on, for what, TikTok? Yeah. You're a Muppet or what? Yeah, you know? It's a different mentality. So their mentality is different. So when you're trying to put when you're trying to analyze their behavior and go, okay, well, what can we do to help them? The touchy-feely shit, they're going to laugh at that. Yeah. You understand? So especially if there's such a, you know, for me, it's such a big topic. And I'm like, some of these kids should get into a fight gym. And if they fuck up, they're going to get battered, you know? Yeah. Like if you go to a fight gym, you'll often get exposed by the most unassuming person. Yeah. You know, I say, going back to, we spoke about how I grew up, I was always skinny, you know, the kid that was quiet, you know, no self-confidence. So the martial arts changed my trajectory, my life, because I was looking for something that would just give me some sort of a feeling. Because
when did you start getting involved in martial arts?
I did it in secondary school initially. There was one of the boys at school. His dad was an instructor, so a little bit of sort of instruction, you know, with that. And then my stepfather didn't believe in a lot of, you know, he's like, get a trade, work, make money, that's it. And worry about playing sport, that's all bullshit. So his mentality was way hard. Yeah. You know, he was, you know, European, that was, you know, been in the military, he'd been in the war, you know, in Angola. He's a Portuguese.
Oh,
He fought in Africa. He'd been blown up by a grenade.
wow.
He was a matador in his younger years too. So he'd been gored by a bull. And, you know, his childhood was
Crazy.
very traumatic.
Yeah.
So his tolerance for bullshit was nothing. Yeah.
Zero.
If I cried, it's like, if you've got nothing to fucking cry about as a kid, you know, and he wouldn't tolerate that.
Yeah.
So my upbringing was, I wouldn't bring my kid up that way, because I think it was too much
On that side, things.
you know.
Yeah,
but my mum's very loving, so I had the full dimension. Somewhere in the middle is where it's right, and that's sort of what I sort of prescribe to, where you've got to have a degree of toughness and no bullshit, but you've also got to have a good, caring and loving attitude, you know, to your family especially, and then, you know, people in general until they prove otherwise.
Yeah.
You know, if dickheads will, you go. You know, I prescribe by the theory of double. So if you're going to be good to me, I'm going to pay that back double.
Double.
You're going to be shit to me, I'm going to pay that back double too.
Right.
So whatever you're going to give, you're going to get back.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes a bit of a reality check. But for me, that's sort of how I was brought up. And then, you know, I didn't have an ideal upbringing. So I worked a lot. I didn't walk into a nightclub or go out with friends or anything like that until I was probably 21, 22.
Okay.
22 years of age, I think. And then I started going to nightclubs, and I'm like, yeah, I can come here and spend all my money, like we spoke about. I'm going to stand and do what those guys do, because they're the security guys.
Yeah.
I was helping them anyway when there was, we were getting a couple of places I went to, there was a few dust ups. I always jump in because they were nice to me. So I'm like, man, I don't know them that well, but I'm not going to let them get, you know, sniped as well. So
Right.
I helped out, and then from there, this was before licensing, you know, I was number 34 in Victoria to get licensed. I was in the first intake of registered security guards in Victoria.
How old were you at the time when you got?
Oh man, that's a good question. I was probably, I don't know, going back, because I remember Tony Zalewski and Dave Hedgecock and all that were the first guys to try and put these courses together, because the cops wanted everyone, and the tax department wanted everyone licensed.
Yes.
It was all working for cash.
Yeah.
And all the rest of it. So in order to bring the industry into some alignment, they put these licensing and regulations in place.
Yeah.
So basically everyone had to get licensed to be able to continue to work in licensed venues.
Yeah.
So I was in the first intake of that, and it was, you know, I still remember that course, and, you know, they had Tony Zalewski was an ex-copper, so he was telling you about the legal, you know, ramifications, and they had the psychologist that came in, and, you know, he attempted to tell us how to deal with people. And I still remember this guy telling me, you know, do this, do that. And I'm like,
how's he going to tell you guys?
He's never been, and he said something and I questioned it. And the guy turned on me. It's like, you should just listen and this, that. And I'm like, hey. I go, hey, if I talk to someone in the club like you just spoke to me, I'm fighting him, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
So and I said, have you ever actually been in a nightclub?
Yeah.
And he goes, oh no, it's irrelevant. Like, it's not irrelevant. You can't profess to have the psychology of an atmosphere or a situation if you've never been in it.
Right.
Yeah. So things can turn, and, you know, the nightclub and the security and working doors and all of that, you know, the first thing you got to use is your mouth.
Right.
You know, you're going to start fighting.
De-escalate or whatever. Yeah, yeah.
You know, everyone's, you know, if you're going to tell someone off, for me, if I'm going to go up to a guy and he's doing something silly or he's too drunk, he's got a girl with him, you don't go up and humiliate the guy with his girl, or he's with his mates, because then he's going to have to, he doesn't want to probably fight, but he's gonna, because he just feels like he doesn't want to, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
There's all the psychology around, you know, the psychology of confrontation. It's important to understand that as much as to know how to kick and punch.
Yep, yep.
Because, you know, even situational awareness and all of that it comes into play, you know, what's the atmosphere, what's around, what's a person's attitude, how they're holding themselves. You know, if I'm talking to someone and they start to, you know, sort of step their right side back, I know they're going to probably throw a right hand.
Yes.
So step off to the left. And all those things go into fight strategy too.
Yeah.
Right-hander, step off, don't be in the power shot zone.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a lefty, go the other way. So all of these fundamentals, be it working security or in the ring, come to play. Same with communication. You know, you can't be a good coach, you can't be a good trainer if you don't have a good level of communication.
Yeah.
And you also have to know what motivates your fighter to fire up.
To get ready.
Some guys got to yell at them, and then they then they go.
Let's switch on.
Other guys will, will start to doubt themselves. So I pretty much, I pretty much just yell at everyone.
Just default by default.
I'm just like, man, come on, you're in a fight now,
Yeah, get ready.
And don't make all the fight camp be a waste of time.
Yeah,
A lot of guys train so hard and then let their heads do them in when they're in the ring after all these weeks of sacrifice and pain. It's like, man, don't make that all be a waste of time.
Of course.
And that essentially comes to most things, remember what you do to get there and then fight like hell to keep it.
Of course, of course.
Whether it's a relationship or you're in a fight, or a lot of people go through a lot of arduous times and they give up at the first hurdle. Sometimes if you give up without when you're challenged, well, you're never going to get anything.
That's right. And that's what we talk about here quite often about Fight Fit, is that not only does the martial arts, or boxing in particular, or kickboxing, teach you obviously necessary self-defense skills, and also the techniques of whatever whatever aspect of martial arts you're looking into. It also teaches you the fundamentals of having a survivor's mindset, a strong mindset, a determined mindset, and having those skills that you can apply to the real world. That's the whole point of getting into. It's that cliche as well, but it's true. Like that whole Mr. Miyagi attitude, where it's like you have these principles of fighting that you can apply to the real world. Well, that's what makes them so special, is because there is no real difference. As you said, I think the world is a fight. It's a confrontation.
Well, look, for me, fighting is life, and life is a fight.
That's it.
It's both. Like there's no smooth sailing, and I've spoken about this a number of times, and I say it to a lot of my I suppose the beginners as well. Like there's good and bad days. You wake up some days and everything will be wonderful. You have the best day, get to work, everything will fall into place. I've managed, big sales teams in corporate, and that's a fight every day. You're fighting against other salespeople, trying to get the sale. A lot of people are turning you down. No. Every no brings you closer to a yes. Eventually you'll break through. But if you give up, you're never going to get that breakthrough. So some days will be good, some days will be bad. The same with training. Some people will come and they'll spar, they'll train, they'll have a shocker and they'll go, oh, this is not for me. Everyone has a shocker. Man, I've had, when I was fighting, I still remember going to Mick Canavan's gym and sparring, some of the boxers there, and I'd get pumped. I was always Kyokushin, kicking, more leg, kick fighter. But I developed my hands because I realized my boxing was weak. So I had to throw myself into boxing to improve my boxing, and be a well-rounded fighter. So, work on your weaknesses, not your strength. A lot of people go to the gym and they'll just do what they do well. Well, do the shit you don't do well, because that's the only way you're going to improve it. So going back to it, so, we'd go to a sparring or whatever, I'd get pumped, man. I sat on the side of the ring, literally crying sometimes because I'd be so frustrated with myself. It wasn't the pain, it wasn't any of that. It was just a frustration with myself that I don't think I'm as good as these guys. I don't think I can do this, And it was like, the only way I'm going to know is if I keep going. And then you go the next week or the next day, and you're popping, you're moving, and it's hitting you. Everyone's like, man, yesterday I was a mess. Today it's good. Maybe tomorrow I'll be a mess again. And then you learn that those ebbs and flows. That's in any job. It's in relationships. It's in the fight game, absolutely. And just when you think you got it, someone's going to pop up and take you off your pedestal. Right. So learning to ride the ups and downs, and have that resilience, is what the martial arts has always brought to my life. And the community. The backing of people, like-minded people around you that are all doing something well. You become a product of your environment. If you surround yourself with, people that are, sitting at home smoking cones and playing video games, well, you're never going to run a corporation. That's right. If you go with people and it's like, I remember talking to Bob Jones about this many years ago, and he was talking about how Australia would jump off the bandwagon of someone that lost a fight. Or you lose a fight,
he's gone.
The Aussies, oh shit, they're off the bandwagon, or there's something else. But, you know, you look at tennis, you know, some of the greats lose and they come back and they still maintain
The
you know,
prestige.
that's right. And Japan was really the home of that when K1 was big back in the day. You know, the Japanese audiences are very bizarre. You know, I traveled to Japan a couple of times with K1. Was fortunate enough once to go, but, you know, with Sam Greco, who's obviously, you know, of an iconic name. And the arenas and the people and the fans were fanatical, but there was so much respect. And win or lose, it wasn't always about the winner, of course, was always revered. But if you got in and you showed warrior spirit, they loved it.
I love
You
it.
know, they loved it. Even if you lost.
Yeah.
The winner sometimes would have a good win, but the person that lost would show such resilience.
Yeah.
You know, that person would get, you know, more sort of,
Yes.
you know,
Credit.
more credit than sometimes the winner in some ways. So, you know, we look at the culture here as opposed to in some other sports and in some other, you know, countries.
Yeah.
It's different. And you notice that, as I said, you know, talking to some of the founders of the sport, you know, it was always about getting in and just having a go.
Of course.
And fighting for me is, you know, a lot of people, I'll fight this guy on the street, I'll do this, that. Fight someone with equal skill, then you're truly being tested.
Yeah.
For a skilled fighter to punch on with someone that has no idea, there's no reward in that. You're just being a dick. That's why a lot of guys that know how to fight don't fight.
Yeah.
You know, you go out,
shot.
someone's a dickhead, you go, you're a dick, you know, I'm not going to waste my time there.
Yeah.
But if they put their hands on you or your family, well, then they're going to cop a smack.
It's a different story. Yeah.
But I think when you want to test yourself, this is the place to test yourself, here in this ring, you know, against someone that's trained as hard, the same weight, good skills. Let's go, let's see how we're going to go down that, you know, before you have a crack, after you show respect.
Yes.
You know, I was never a fighter that wanted to be buddies with my opponents. So at the end of the day, they're still trying to knock me out.
Yeah, you're going to fight.
I'm like, yeah, I got enough friends. Well, I didn't really have many friends. I wasn't interviewing for friends when I'm fighting. The guy, I'm like, I don't want to be his friend. The guy's trying to embarrass me in front of everybody.
Yeah.
So my mentality, I had to develop a focus of, I don't like the person. If you're stepping up to fight me, well then that's a challenge. It's against me, man. You're not my friend. You're here to hurt me and to embarrass me.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong. So you're in your 20s at the time where you started getting involved. Obviously, did you go to Bob Jones as well? You went to Bob Jones?
Yeah, look, my martial art career was, you know, early days, bit of judo, kung fu, you know, we taught, you know, rough and ready.
Yeah.
And then a big time of nothing because, you know, I was taken out of football. I was a promising footballer too.
Okay, right.
So I played for Richmond Little League when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Back then, the Little Leagues weren't, everyone has a chance. You used to have to go to Punt Road, go to training, and then they'd pick the team. And it was, you know, it was a bit more, you're either in or you're out. Yeah. Like everyone gets a go. No, if you're no good, no one's getting a go. So it was, you know, that was the pathway. So, you know, good as a kid, as a footballer, this, that, and then, as I said, my stepdad just thought, no, you learn a trade, get a living, work hard, you know, be respectful.
And was it just security at the time? You were just
So I started doing Kyokushin first. I ended up at Elwood training with Eddie Emin, who's a legend of the martial arts here in Victoria, in Australia indeed. You know, one of the first with, you know, guys like Tina Sobrano and Sal Ibanez and all those early founders. Those guys used to go to the docks when the Japanese come here on cargo ships and ask them to teach them something because they knew the Japanese knew
how to fight.
A little bit of martial arts. They go, and it was a silver top taxi drivers club because they were driving taxis and they wanted to know how to, you know, look after themselves. So they used to go to the docks and they'd ask the Japanese guys to teach them, and they'd say, look, we'll take you for dinner, we'll pay for dinner if you show us something. So that wasn't going back, and I'm sure, you know, this is the information that I've had through when I was running Blitz magazine, obviously, through all those years. So I learned so much of how the founders of the combat sports here developed. And then from that, you know, Bob Jones, you know, it was like, you know, an uncle to me. You know, so I'd sit with him at Fight Fit and in Thornbury when they had their shop and the offices there, and go to, you know, his house in Ivanhoe, you know. So, you know, he was really the man behind the freestyle development with Dave Hitchcock.
Right.
I think also obviously Paul Fifield and all of that, you know, Lancianis, all those guys. That was the sort of the pathway. You had the true, you know, pioneers of going to the docks and asking the Japanese to teach them a little bit of karate there.
Yeah.
And then it went through, and then Bob was, you know, did the Goju Kai, you know, with Tino Sobrano, developed this freestyle, this boxing, and, you know, then kickboxing started to become a thing. So Bob was really, you know, the freestyle aspect of fighting, which if you look at it today, it's MMA, you know, it's like a bit of everything.
Yeah.
But really, MMA still has rules, you know, so everything has some sort of rules.
Yeah.
So taking that progression of how the sport came, the evolution of these guys that were just thirsty for knowledge, they were humble, but they wanted to learn and they wanted to test themselves. You know, that was guys like Eddie and Tino and Sal Ibanez and then Bob, and it goes through Dave Hedgecock, Paul Fifield. There's this pathway. So I sort of see myself as following along from that, or being a part of that. And I feel blessed to know that, whereas a lot of kids wouldn't even know how shit started here.
Right, yeah.
And then
the whole history.
Yeah, well, that's right. And then, you know, from that, then you've got Sam Greco, you know, Kyokushin as well, a legend in the Kyokushin. You know, Tosca, you know, I work for Tosca Security, work with him, work for him, all of that. You know, he fought Jean-Yves Theriault. Like, he fought
Canada.
Man, like what he was doing was so understated, but so good. And it's like, I was like, man, Jean-Yves Theriault, I've seen him in the magazines. There's like PK kickboxing in the US, man. It was like they were rock stars. And all of a sudden, man, this Aussies fighting them. And Tosca didn't care, man. He fight anyone, anywhere. There was no fuss about him, you know.
And you were in the mix with those guys.
Yeah, so I was seeing it all, and I was doing my own thing as well, and just wrapped to be around it, you know.
Absolutely.
So yeah, from going from Kyokushin, then I moved on. I busted up my hands too much because it's obviously bare knuckle.
Yes.
And then
was Battle of the Bouncers with Kyokushin, or was that just kickboxing?
No, that was kickboxing.
That was kickboxing.
So that was when I started training with Zendo Kai or BJC.
Okay, yep.
And I trained under Stephen Adelkos and Paul Dunaludi, Sean Steinford.
Yep.
All out in the east. That was a stable out there, and I was running security out east. So I thought to train there. I had my security guys training with me.
Yep. All in it together.
Yeah, and it was like, and then you know, we went along to the South Melbourne Town Hall, and Dave Hedgecock was doing a seminar. Back then, he was big in security. Dave was, you know, iconic name in the fight sports with all of the Zendo Kai and BJC fans. So we're like, you know, we go and see Dave, and then it was just we roll up. I worked security the night before, and then they're like, you know, oh well, we're going to actually do a fight event, and I'm like, what? So I still remember we're in the town hall, South Melbourne Town Hall, and they go downstairs. There's a ring, this, that. There's a doctor there and check you out, and then you're going to fight. And I'm like, I haven't slept.
Yeah, right.
I just come in and learn a couple of things.
Yeah.
The next minute we're down there, and Johnny Sheeter will attest to this because I fought one of his guys that worked at the Kilkenny.
Okay.
And I just hopped, man, I had no idea. I'm like, oh, let's go. You know, and that was really my first kickboxing fight. All my other fights had been Kyokushin.
Right.
And I did a couple of BJC tournaments, which were like open tournaments.
Yes.
And that was how I just entered myself into a tournament. And then from that.
Where were they?
Preston Town Hall.
Okay.
So I was at Preston Town Hall, and then I think I got runner-up in the heavyweights division. They had different weight divisions. You know, everyone used to fight on the day, and it was, sort of controlled semi-contact stuff. And then the chief come up to me after. Bob goes, mate, what do? You train Taekwondo or karate? What do you do? And I said, I used to do Kyokushin. He goes, are you still training? I said, I'm not really. I said, I'm just sort of training myself now. So he invited me then to join with the BJC, and he goes, we can do some stuff together. And that was my progression onto that. Yeah. And I was training with BJC when I had this first fight, and then I went from there. Then I started having more and more fights. Yeah. Along the way, just whatever went on, kickboxing. Was
the focus always going to be on kickboxing as well for you in your mind? Were you thinking that there was a career there as well?
Oh, no, there was no career. I mean, man, it was like, there was nothing in it back then, You did it, you used to pay to compete, never mind getting paid.
Yeah, right.
So K1 was the first, there's big money, when Master Ishii started K1 and it blew up. And I actually got offered a fight in K1. There was a cruiserweight division that was starting off, and I got the paperwork to sign off on. But where I was working wouldn't give me the time off, so to travel, so lost opportunity. But it is what it is.
But it seems like, just from what what you've told me so far, is that you had like 6 or 7 things always happening with you at once.
Yeah, man.
Your security, and then I know obviously later with Blitz, and then obviously later on more into media with commentary and Hammer Time and all. It seems like you just had, and security. You had your hands in everything, really. Have you always been like that as a person?
Look, I suppose I was, as a kid, I always worked. My stepdad and I and my mum built a house in the Dandenongs on the weekends. Like,
on the weekend,
30 square. So my mum used to work in a factory in Northcote, and I'd go to school, and my stepdad, he was an upholsterer, antique restorer by trade, but they bought a block of land in Cockatoo, which is in the Dandenongs near Emerald Lake, up in the hills. So we used to pack up the car Friday evening, drive to the hills and live in a tent, sleep in a tent, and we built this house on the ground up.
Wow.
It's still there in Warrielic Road. So
fantastic.
And that was kids going out weekends, I was learning to lay bricks and dig Aggie pipes, and learn fundamentals of construction.
Do you think that by having your weekends preoccupied with working and helping out the family, do you think it saved you potentially from because you hear a lot of stories of...
That's such a good question.
You know what I mean? Because you hear a lot of kids say that my early 20s, I was off the rails. I could have gone this way. I could have gone that way. And, especially with fighters, I see this as a common theme with a lot of people involved in the fight game. It's like, they could have gone this way, but it sounds like with you, it's like you were laying a foundation physically and
so it's so right.
Yeah, to future success with the discipline and whatnot. Do you think that could have been?
Well, like that's so interesting, because no one's ever said that, and I'm like, shit, you're probably right, because all the kids I grew up with in that time at Northcote Tech, which is when we started, they were the Pettingles and the guys that did the Wall Street shootings and all that, and there's some heavy hitters in the era of me growing up with them, and a lot of them certainly went that way. There was the odd couple of kids that did well. One became a pharmacist, I know, and some went on to other things, but I'd say 85% of them didn't end well. So that's like, wow. This dawned on me just then when I said that. I'm like, it probably did stop me from going, hanging around with kids doing stuff that was just happening in the northern suburbs back then. And I was never one for peer group pressure, though, because I still remember even at tech school, kids smoking, and I'm like, they're trying to push, and I'm like, no. So I hate it. So that I never did anything. In fact, I was totally the opposite, because I still remember like Star Wars and Jaws coming out, like,
of course.
Oh, sick, we've got to go. And I'm like, because everyone was going, I didn't want to go.
And you said you were also naturally a bit more shy as
well. Yeah, so, and I was always, what everyone's doing, I'm doing different. Like, I don't want to be a sheep following.
Yeah.
And that was from a young age. I don't know why. I honestly don't.
It's just an instinct.
There's trends now. When people start doing trends, I'm least likely to do something that's trending. It's always with my same clothes. When they Louis Vuitton stuff. So
it's the consistency of life.
So I've always been a bit different, but then that work ethic, because then I'm a upholsterer, an antique restorer by trade, French polisher, all of that. So I've got a trade. And then I got out, then I left that, because I was in a family business. So we worked, 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. That was it. That was my life for many years. We worked with some very high profile, affluent people.
Right.
I did a job that was for the Queen, from the Queen's visit out here years ago.
Wow.
So we were dealing, my old man was dealing with
heavy,
high caliber, architects and antique, dealers and stuff like that. So I was at a very high level. So therefore the expectation on me as an apprentice and as someone in the business, it's like, don't fuck it up. Whatever I did, it's like, no, that's shit. So I had a lot of negative reinforcement, which again, really shows me what I wouldn't do. Like, I get it, when you're told so often daily that you're no good and that you'll never amount to anything, you sort of start believing it. And that was me. So then when I left home, I'm like, got to go back. You know, I was already interested in martial arts. I had a book that I was studying about karate and trying to do the moves myself, and you know, at home doing the calisthenic exercises or push-ups or sit-ups. I was doing all of that stuff on my own.
How old were you?
That was probably in late teens, early 20s. Yeah, late teens, definitely.
Yeah.
So I worked my way through my mental health issues.
Yeah, yeah.
Just by trying to be stronger.
Yeah.
But
build yourself up.
Man, I still had a lot of demons, you know, like I never thought I'd amount to anything. You know, I still remember, you know, driving to work in the van with my stepdad and looking for like houses that were vacant and stuff like that, like disowned, you know, because I thought, oh, if I leave home, I'll never be able to provide for myself. So I'd start looking at doorways of shops where I could sleep, or, you know, houses that were empty where I could probably go and sleep somewhere.
Yeah.
So I was in survivor mode. I'm like, man, if I don't have my home, I've got to find a way to have shelter and food and all of that. So that's how low my self-esteem was.
Yeah.
Like I literally thought no one would give me a job or want me around.
Yeah.
So when I started training, you know, I'd go to training and the fact that I'd be getting hit it made me feel something, man. Yeah. Like, you know, some kids, you know, they're cutting or this, that, whatever, you know. Well, to me, it was going to training and just, you know, mixing it up. And, you know, I was terrible as a beginner probably, you know.
But it made you feel alive.
And it was like just the fact that I was there and I was in the fight, literally made me go, you know what, just whatever, I'll survive whatever. Yeah. And Kyokushin is actually a bit of a, you know, back then it was a bit of a dangerous martial art to do because
still is.
You thought you could walk through walls, like literally, because it was so physical.
Right.
And you're getting punched and there was no shin guards, man. I never knew what a shin guard or a glove was. Never knew, honestly. We had our gi, that's it. Make sure your belt's tied properly, let's go.
Oh.
So, you know, learning leg checking and leg kicking, it was just, there was no padding. I never knew what a shin guard was until I started kickboxing.
Yeah.
Oh, what are these things? Oh, I got 4. You know, so you're so hardened that and you're so used to taking impact from bigger guys, whoever, you know, that you become a bit almost not delusional, but become overconfident.
Right.
And that was sort of me until I went into this first tournament and I had my hands here because you fight here. And my head's a dang, da, dang, da. I'm like, man,
getting lit up.
Like, I want to do with this and can try and head kick them, but
yeah,
you know, so I'm like, I've got to learn how to box better. So then as I said, the weakness was what I worked on. I'm like, I'm not doing well here, I need to work on that. Yeah. And then from the kickboxing, then the Muay Thai, you got to know how to clinch. You know, you got to learn those. So
you started adapting your game as you started seeing holes in your game, right? As you were getting older. So from what I'm getting from you is that your psychological and mental development coincided almost completely with how you were committing to your training and how you were committing to your martial arts, and then obviously from there, you know, getting good work as well, security and whatnot. So it all kind of melded into one at some point.
Yeah, well, I think back, and I know you're interested about the work-life thing. Well,
yeah.
I'd work, you know, at one point I was a storeman. So when I left my apprenticeship and my trade, I just wanted to do anything. And I looked at a few careers, everything from army to police to whatever. I worked for the ABC for a while as a news crew driver. I'd done everything. So, but I'd go, all right, I got a job as a storeman. I got my forklift license. You know, I was doing that because I wanted to become a sales rep or, you know, a business development manager, as they call it now.
Yeah.
Because you get a car, and I'm like, man, if I get a car, I'm set. Someone's giving me a car for free to drive around, have coffees. I'm doing that because I remember I used to see the reps when they come to see us. I'm like, I want that job. Nice clothes, coffee, talking shit, never doing any work. I'm doing that job.
Yeah.
So but in order to get to that point, I had to work for a company, start at the ground level, work my way up. But because I was such a lunatic with the forklift, and it was a bit random, and I was, you know, there's one guy annoyed me once, so I picked him up and threw him in the dumper and closed the lid. I was doing stupid things.
That's insane. That is insane.
The owner of the company, I went and said, everyone's getting, you know,
complaints.
Everyone's getting opportunities.
Oh, right.
And I started before this guy, and he's got this job. What about me? And they're like, man, we see how you drive the forklift. You never drive in the company car. And I'm like, Oh shit! Well,
yeah.
that's all. Maybe that didn't go as I thought. But I'd work as a storeman. Then I'd finish that. I'd work. Then I'd do a little bit of work for my old man in the furniture business. So I'd go from finishing the storeman at like 3:30, 4 o'clock. I'd drive to Kew, work in our shop till 9, and then I'd change my clothes and I would go work security till 2, 3 in the morning.
And what time were you up?
I was up at 7, whatever. So I remember
Yeah,
working at billboards with Athos back in the day when billboards, the original billboards, and we'd work on, and I'd do Monday night, which is like an industry night / Asian night, whatever. And I'd finish, and then the owner, Athos, would go, "We have a pizza now upstairs." And I'm like, oh, this guy's killing me. But you had to, because you'd get offended if you didn't.
Right.
And the other guys I work with, they didn't work day jobs.
Yeah.
And I still remember sitting there having pizza after working at whatever time and start to see the street cleaners. And I'm just like, oh, fuck, now, man, I've got to go to work in a few hours, you know. So I drive home, change, get a couple of hours sleep, drive to work, make sure I'm on time at work, and just sit in the car park and sleep for a little bit, like half an hour.
And how long did you do this for? How long
I did it for years, man. Like I did it for years. Yeah, I've never worked one job. Even when I was in corporate, I worked running, obviously, Blitz Publications. I still worked security. I still trained. My training was in there too. So I didn't stop. I used to train as well. And Fox Sports, like I've been doing Fox Sports for 30 years.
How did that transition take place into media? Well, obviously, how did you get involved in Blitz? And I think was it international kickboxing?
Yeah, it was Blitz Martial Arts, international kickboxer, soccer international.
How did that all come out of?
Well, we started with one magazine and grew it to a lot.
Right.
It was myself and Silvio back in the days.
Right.
And it was, what a time, it was, anything was possible if you worked and, you put your mind to it with magazines. Then, I was still, because I couldn't be, there was no money in back then. So I was working security because the magazine business that we started, Silvio didn't have enough money to pay me, back in the day. So I was like, I'll work security. He said, yep, come in, when you get up, come in, work. So we had an agreement at the start, and that sort of continued for many years, probably too long, maybe. I was doing a lot of stuff, and then I owned a nightclub as well, Area 61 in St Kilda. So because I worked in the industry, I thought, man, I want to try owning a club. So I've had always a lot of plates spinning.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way I know to get ahead.
Well, and it sounds like it was instilled from a young age with your stepdad and your mum as well. Like you're just constantly working from a young age.
And I think for me, the way, I've had marriage breakdowns, I've had, some hard situations in my life, and keeping busy stops me dwelling on negative stuff, stops me being depressed and sad.
Yeah.
So if you keep your mind occupied, and that I've created a monster for that now, because now I can't relax.
Right. Even now?
Yeah, sure. If I'm at home and I just sit there, I feel guilty, because in all my life I've just
constantly hustled.
There's always something, wake up in the middle of the night, no idea, write it down, like I've sort of gone too much, and because I've been, I've got a daughter, because I was so obsessed with getting, these results, I missed. And I probably missed out on a lot of stuff. I've seen my daughter grow and doing certain things, family things, because I've been so obsessed about the fight game. I've got to go to this fight night. I've got to commentate here. I've got to go with this fighter, do that. And I sort of regret some of that now, because a lot of the fighters that I put so much time and people in the industry that I've supported and put a lot of time and effort into, now they see me, they don't even say hello. That hurts me a bit, to be honest with you, because I've given my life to the fight game, and I've helped a lot of people that wouldn't have got publicity anywhere. They wouldn't have. And I put them in the magazine or interviewed them on TV. I've done a lot of stuff, and now it's like Hammer's got no use anymore. Why I want to talk to him, or they don't want to talk to me for various whatever reasons. I'm like, well, I'm still the same person, I still help whoever, and I'll still probably help them again if they ask me. But I noticed I went to a weigh-in with one of my fighters, and I wasn't feeling it, right, to be honest with you. I was had two fighters on, and I looked around the room, and there was probably, I don't know, so if you have, say 15 fights, what's that, 30 fighters, That's 30 fighters, 30 trainers, seconds. I looked around the room and I just sat on a chair. For once I don't go, hey. I just thought, fuck, I just want to sit here and chill for a bit, get the weigh-in done and go. And I looked around the room and I've gone, help them, you know him. And I thought, and they're from everywhere, you know, and I thought, I wonder how many people will come and say hello to me. Number one, I'm the fucking elder now, like I'm an old guy here. So these guys are younger than most. Number two, the guys that are my age, I've done a lot in the past to give them a leg up. And you know what? One definitely, maybe someone else will give me a nod. But the rest, they're not even coming up and going, what's going on, man, you're right. And to me, that's a basic courtesy. So I'm like, that was, you know, there's that. And there's a couple of fighters that I put a lot of time and effort and love and personal, commitment into, that'll just go, they leave because someone gets in their ear. I'm going to go here and do this or that. And I'm like, fight teams used to be like, bike gangs in some ways. Like you join, that's the club, yeah. We're all in. Someone needs a hand, we all helping. It's a community, call it what you want. But I feel these days that's not, now everyone's very disposable. Products are disposable. You know, when I was a kid, you get a TV. If that TV broke, some TV repairman's come and change the globe. Now, TV's broke, bin. Car's no good, bin.
Yeah.
Couch, bin. My trade is recovering and restoring furniture.
Yeah.
Now, bin. Made in China, costs more to buy the fabric as a tradesman to make a couch than to buy the whole thing.
Right.
So life is become very fast paced. Everything's disposable. Everyone's disposable. And therefore it's almost like it's a fabric breakdown of society in some ways what we're seeing now, where people are like, there's kids that are doing this and doing that. So there's lack of respect. People aren't respecting elders. When I grew up, like it or hate it, like you stand up, you give your seat to a woman who gets on the train. Now it's like equal rights. Enjoy standing up with all your shopping bags.
Yeah, yeah.
But was it better then? Because there was a respect for elders and a respect for women. Like they're saying they're weaker, this, that, because my mum is one of the strongest people I know.
Right.
You know, so I'm not derogatory.
It
was just we're from a different time. And now I merge the two. I still believe in all of it. But it's like, well, everyone's got to be fair and equal and all that, but things are disposable. People will not, like they don't value products anymore, they sort of don't value people anymore, because it doesn't matter, you're my mate today, but I've got, on social media, I've got 10,000 friends, so who are you?
Yeah.
Someone else is going to like my picture. The only way someone said they like something, that's a nice shirt.
Yeah.
It looks good on you.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to post it. And then, oh, you're hot, flames, go girl, all that.
Yeah.
Relax. It's just freaking shit on the internet.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then people take all this, they put so much importance on people they don't know. They go, oh, the validation from someone they don't know, when they're not respecting their own family and friends that are probably going to, when they get sick or when they need something, the people that are liking your pictures aren't going to come to your rescue and cook for you when you're sick, or, so I suppose I'm young, but I'm old.
Yeah, no.
I've got, and I'm like, man, I just want to.
You've got the wisdom. You've got the wisdom.
I don't know. It's just my spin on shit, man.
Of course.
Spin on shit. But being in a gym and being around younger people, it keeps me challenged as well. Because there's people my age are sitting there, I'm like, man, they're nearly checking out. Like, I get it because you can't beat the clock. But being around people that are doing good things, as I said, product of your environment. Yeah, if I go to the pub every night, that's it.
That's it.
We go to the gym and push, and man, he's 25. But keep up with that prick.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm dying, but he's doing it easy.
You're right.
Always shooting for your, work on your weaknesses.
Yeah.
Not, I'm old, that's it.
Of course.
All right, other guys are fatter than me. Well, no, I don't want to be the fattest guy in the room. I'll be looking like the young guy that's still strong.
Always working on your weaknesses.
So, always. I had an interesting conversation with Johnny Sheeter, and Johnny's a bit older than me. He's a legend of the sport as well. And we're on the phone and he goes, fuck, I'm still trying to do my fucking 20 push-ups and I'm on the side of the ring and, I'm doing and I'm like, yeah, me too. My shoulder's fucked, but I'm still trying to do it.
Yeah,
and then I look at guys like Paul Fifield, man, he never ages, that bloke. He kills me.
He's like Benjamin Button. Yeah, he's just getting younger.
But what an inspiration, and that's someone, as I said, when I talk about people with a respect and an admiration, I'm putting him in always, yeah? Like from a young man, I've always gone, something about that dude, man. It's like, doesn't say too much, doesn't grandstand, but just when it matters, I know he can do whatever, yeah? So, and his physique and his mentality, him, Tony Tocasio, you guys from Five Cara.
Yeah.
I respect these people. I honestly do. Not because I have to, but because of what they've done, who they are, and what they continue to do.
Yeah.
Tony Tocasio, I seen him at the High Rocks thing a while back, and I'm like, oh, this guy again. Yeah. Walking around all jacked. I'm like, stop it, brother, But at the same time, I'm like, man, if he's in the backyard training, I'm going to do it too.
That's it.
So we still push each other to be better, even though we're not fighting and we're not training together. But we just go, you know what? Let Johnny Sheeter, me, Paul. It's like, Paul's gone to me, what's wrong with you? Just do some burpees this day. He'll give me a reality check with love, not derogatory, with love. And that's, and that's what it's all about, having people around you that help you to level up, that make you better, that, bring good things to your life, that respect you.
Absolutely.
But I feel these days, that bottle's getting less and less full.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, absolutely. Now, tell me about where you're at now in terms of Hammer's Gym. What's on the horizon for you? What can you tell us about that?
Rent's going up. Wages are going up. Expenses, I'm dying over here.
Yeah, well, that's true. It seems like a universal at the moment.
Look, man, don't get me started on the gym stuff. Some of these fuckers are making it a race to the bottom with price. And we're trying to provide quality service. There's gyms out there, like Revo and stuff like that, opening up these massive gyms. So they get a big factory, they need big car parks because they make a mess with the parking because they've got so many people in there. Kids from 14 can go in cheap. Credit to the business model, but it's going to destroy the industry, and it's going to make it harder for people that are passionate about fitness, that want to offer good service. Yeah, you get what you pay for, you understand? You get what you pay for. People don't seem to understand that in this world. If a product's already made, you can bargain price. But if a product's not made, don't bargain, because someone's getting ripped somewhere, in the manufacturing or something. So that's more of a trade analogy. But when you look at the gyms, okay, get a big warehouse, put a heap of machinery in, lease to buy, paid off over a certain amount of time, one staff at the front desk checking people in, maybe one cleaner, that's it. My gym, we got 30 staff plus. Classes led by credible, passionate, quality instructors. Front of house, cleaning on point. So I don't cut back on anything, because I try and make my gym a quality product.
Yeah.
And that's why, I've had everyone from, Dolph Lundgren and Steven Seagal. Steven Seagal's son is coming to Australia. He's going to send him to train with me. Mm-hmm. So, we establish ourselves as quality people within our industry and our area. All the UFC guys, the Pereiras and the GSPs will come to the gym. And it's been hard to get them there, but I want to do that for my people to see the best.
Right.
And aspire to be, as good as a boxer as Terence Bud Crawford, or an MMA fighter as, Pereira, or, guys like Dolph Lundgren and Seagal, all the others that I've had. So it's like, they're just people at the end of the day. But look, you're watching on TV, now you're training right next to them, 2 meters away. Yeah. How cool is that?
Yeah.
So I've gone above and beyond to make these experiences happen. It's not about the money, because most of the time you lose on it. Yeah, so there's cost factored into all of this stuff.
Yeah.
But the fact that I can do it, and the community get to experience that with me, that's what it's all about. It's not about the cash. But then you've got the other people in the industry that are just coming in. There's franchises opening up. There's, lawyers and doctors. I know of Anytime gyms in Melbourne and Jets gyms in Melbourne that are owned by medical professionals or lawyers in Sydney that never even walked in the building. It's just buy the franchise, put a manager, charge some fees, get people in. Who cares if they're training well or not? Just get the direct debits happening.
Right.
Yeah. So that is making it so much harder for my gym, for Fight Fit, for other gyms, Ultimate, for the gyms that are out there that have a passion and a real caring for their community and their members, because people at the end of the day still have to watch their wallets, especially now, cost of living, this, that. So people are like, oh, far out. Well, do I spend money at the gym or I just go over here? It's like, it's so cheap.
Yeah.
But what you get is nothing. Yeah, you get shit. You get something that's not going to keep you motivated, will give you no challenges, and just a big room with a few machines in it. As opposed to walking in, people say hello, help each other, encourage each other, group classes. And the thing with group classes is, someone said this to me ages ago, it's appointment set training. It makes you accountable. So if you've got to turn up, the class is at 6 o'clock. If you're not there at 6 o'clock, you're going to miss out. People go, I've got to get there 6 o'clock to do this class. So it's like a PT. When you book a PT, you go, I've got to be there. Mm-hmm. I'm wasting my money. Well, sort of like gyms that do group classes are similar to that. So it's appointment set training. So you go, I've got to be there, classes on, whether it's BFT or F45 or whatever, they all have the same sort of model to get people in and accountable to do the class to get better results for their fitness.
Yeah, yeah.
These big box gyms, whether it's, the Crunches or the Planet Fitness, that's even a whole other disaster that's coming to Australia, that one there. No. That's just big business, not caring about people that are setting up models to make money and just override any sort of quality control. Right. They may have a couple of good PTs in there, maybe, but generally the business model is not about improving people. It's just about getting numbers in the door and making an earn. Yeah. And I I'm not, Mother Teresa over here too. Yeah. I'm trying to make money as well. Yeah. But I still think make money ethically. Yeah. Provide a good service, quality over quantity. Yeah. And I get people coming into my gym going, oh yeah, but it's $5 cheaper there. And I'm looking at them wearing, $300 Nikes. Mm. And I'll go, your runners are expensive, yeah? Nice runners, quality. Why didn't you go to Kmart and buy the fucking $20 runners? What, you went $300?
Mine are from Kmart, but that's so here they are.
Yeah, we've got to fix it. So do you know what I mean? So people will spend when they have a reason to, or it's a status thing. As I said, now it's all about what you're wearing and all of that because of social media expectations. But you have to also look at that for your personal fitness and training.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get cheap.
Always.
Sometimes, yeah, it's just the way it is. And look at where you're training, who's there, what have they done, what's their track record.
Focusing on the quality.
So instead of the $5 more or less, a cup of coffee is $5. You're going to argue with me for $5. It's one cup of coffee a week. Yeah. You're going to argue with me over that.
Yeah.
For what? Mm-hmm. So I'm like.
I know what you're saying though. You're saying focusing on the quality first. Obviously the pricing matters, but at the end of the day, you're getting what you pay for.
That's it. And I'm always upgrading my equipment. I'm looking at now bringing high rocks in because that's a thing. The Pilates, high rocks. The weights in the gym areas. I'm trying to always upkeep it well. The bathrooms, the toilets, I want hygienic and clean. We have deodorants in there. These little things that to other people like don't worry. Well, no, to me I worry because it's the little things that set you apart from everybody. Yeah. And then it's the caring of, I've always taught structured systems, Yeah. I do gradings, I do testing. And people, it's not about pass or fail because I test people or I grade people when they've trained for a certain time because I find it's important to give them a checkpoint in their training. Yeah. You come and train with me for 3 months, 6 months. How do you know how good you are? So what I do is I do evaluation. I go, okay, well, these are the techniques you should know. You should be able to skip for this long. You should be able to do this many push-ups, sit-ups. This is your challenge, your personal challenge. Can you do it? You've done it well. Here's your rank. Here's your assessment sheet with feedback of what you need to do more, what you need to do less. Yeah. Now let's go next goal. What's next? Because if you're not a fighter and you're in a fight gym I still believe you should have some sort of challenges, personal challenges for you only. That doesn't involve getting punched in the head if you don't want to.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've always had that traditionalism. Martial arts is a traditional pursuit that's been around for centuries. And every martial art has a grading system. But sometimes some combat places like, no, we don't do that. We just fight. Well, how many fighters do you have? You got, maybe 500 members. Are they all fighting? No. You maybe got 5 that really will fight properly. So what are you doing? As I said, the quality expectation comes in for me. So the people that don't want to fight, that still want to be martial artists, how can I give them ongoing feedback? And how can I keep them engaged and involved in what they're doing?
Yeah.
So I've come up with my structured systems, which I learned from Bob Jones and Eddie Emin and all the legends in the past that always had testing.
Yeah.
And it's not pass or fail, because if you're not ready, you don't grade.
Absolutely.
You go, you know what, next one. It's not a race here.
Yeah.
When you're ready, we'll put you through.
That's right.
So I've always had that mentality, which has given me structure, systemized learning and teaching. It scales well, and that's been, I suppose, a strong point of how I've evolved as a business.
Well, it sounds like it's a solid system, and it sounds like it's backed. You're obviously very passionate about it. It's backed from the experience of you've had personally as a fighter, as a trainer, as being in that game for so long. You want to make sure that people get what they're bargaining for.
It's like, we want to keep people engaged, keep them challenged. And sometimes it's about fighting, but a lot of times it's about self-defense. I've done, surveys of all my members. So I ask them, why are you here? That's the thing that a lot of businesses should do, because I come back from a corporate background. They do focus groups and they do testing, product testing and stuff like that. Just because you think it's good doesn't mean it is good. Just because you think it's going to work doesn't mean it's going to work. So where do you learn from? You learn from your potential clients. Yeah. And I go back to when I opened my nightclub. Tui's back then offered me big money to put their beer on tap. Before I opened the nightclub, I got like 3 or 4 hot girls with clipboards up and down Fitzroy Street. And I said, go up and down the street and do a survey of what beer people like and ask them if they drink Tui's or whatever it was back then. And you know what? That made me sign CUB. Right. Because I looked at the facts, and even though I was going to get big money here for taking on this beer, that wouldn't sell. And people go, if they don't have the beer, I'm not going to the club. So it comes back to give people what they want, not what you think is going to work. Yeah. So going to our scenario, it's like, ask your members what they want. What brings you here? Not the people that have been with you for years, because they obviously love it, but the new people. What's their why? So for me, the why is, want to try something new, want to get fitter, stronger, want to learn self-defense. Fighting is down here. So if I'm tailoring all my business to fighting, I'm missing out on all of this. I want to give people what they want, not what I think I want them to get. Yes. That's in my mind, that's sort of how I figure out my business models, is by going, okay, this is what I want to do. Now, what do people want, and what's going to get them there, and give them what they want, because what I want becomes irrelevant.
Absolutely, and that's fascinating, and it goes to show how, there's a reason why Hammers has been so successful, and that obviously you've had such success over your years, the years at the gym, and it sounds like it's just going to keep pushing on, and hopefully Fight Fit does the same, and we can be doing many more podcasts in the future together. But for now, thank you so much. We talk for hours about every aspect of life, but I really appreciate it again for your honesty and for being so candid.
No, I wish you all the best, and thank you for having me.
No problem. I'm glad we did it. We'll do it again. Thank you.